It's time to get down to business on TK Business Live, brought to you by the members of the Topeka Independent Business Association. Now, let's join Tara Dimmick, owner and publisher of TK Business Magazine, as we take a look into the business world of Topeka, Kansas.
Hi, and welcome to TK Business Live. I'm Tara Dimmick, and today's show, I have Lisa Loewen joining me. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you.
Lisa is my editor-in-chief of TK Business Magazine, and she's also my business partner with Focused Engineered, and she is a professor at KU. So if she says she doesn't do much, she's not telling you the truth. But we have a couple things we thought we would talk about on the show today. We're going to share a little bit about what is in TK Business Magazine. I talked a little bit about it last week before it launched, but we just have it out on stands. We launched it at the Junior Achievement of Kansas, Topeka Business Hall of Fame on March 3rd. And so you can find it online at tkmagazine.com, or you can find it on stands at Dillon's, Hy-Vee, Westridge Mall. It's also all over the place. We delivered to over 500 businesses. So if you can't find it, you're not looking hard enough. So we'll get started with Lisa and talk a little bit about the magazine. Lisa, you are the writer for the Hall of Fame article. So tell us a little bit about the article, maybe what you found out as you were interviewing the 4 laureates of the Junior Achievement 2016 Hall of Fame.
Well, I've been, as you know, writing the Hall of Fame piece for like 7 years.
Yeah.
So I've talked to a lot of business people in Topeka, people that have won the award. And so whenever I'm out talking to the new set of laureates, I'm always looking for something that might set them apart from people I've talked to in the past to try to tell a little bit of a different story. And what I found really interesting about this group was that none of them wanted to live in Topeka. And I guess I need to stop and say want is kind of they didn't plan.
But it wasn't even, it wasn't in their thought process to be like, okay, I'm going to Topeka.
Correct. None of them were born here. None of them went to school here. They just by fate, whatever you want to call it, ended up here. Opportunity brought them to Topeka. And once they got here, they fell in love with it and with the people, with the community, with the businesses, and have stayed ever since.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about, maybe a little chunk about each person. So we've got Andy Corbin, Neil Dobler, Dick Pratt, and Eugene over at KTW, Eugene Williams. So tell me maybe a tidbit that you found fascinating about each one.
Okay, so let's start with Andy Corbin. He's the CEO, president, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Kansas. Has been with Blue Cross Blue Shield for his entire career, whether that be in Kansas City, down in Texas, the different Blue plans. He's pretty much spent his career with them. And so when I went in there in his office, you're up in the executive offices at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you sort of have this idea of the person that you're going to talk to before you get in there. And it was completely opposite of what I thought I was going to get when I got there. He is the most down-to-earth individual that you would ever meet. He's a rancher. He's a farmer. He owns land all over Kansas. He loves to spend his time in the farm implement stores. He calls the farmers and the ranchers of Kansas the salt of the earth. It's who I think in his private life, if he could be a rancher all the time, he would be. But his calling is to help take Blue Cross Blue Shield into the next
where it's going. Yeah. It's gone through so much too over the last several years that Andy's been really, driving the ship with all the healthcare changes and everything. It's been transformative for Blue Cross Blue Shield with everything going on with having Obama as president and the healthcare system. As the Topeka Independent Business Association was working, we had a committee for healthcare, and I remember we were working so hard, and then once everything started going on with healthcare changes, it flatlined. There was nothing. There was just waiting for things to happen, and so Blue Cross Blue Shield really had to survive and figure out where they were going to land with all of the things going on with healthcare, and it's still going on. As we look at this next election and you hear what the different candidates are talking about, you're going, man, is healthcare going to take another total transformation again if they repeal everything? What is it going to look like then? And now he's got to go through that as well. And it sounds like he's kind of made a commitment to try to make it through this next stage.
Yes, what he told me was that he had promised Blue Cross Blue Shield that he would stick with them through this healthcare change. So it looks like he might be there for the rest of his life.
Good luck, Andy. Okay, who else?
Well, the second person was Neil Dobler, who most people have known as everything from engineer to interim city manager to now working at Bartlett and West as an engineer as well. And he was very interesting because he's very civic-minded. So everything that Neil has done in his career has been for the betterment of the community that he lives in, which I find really inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's been through everything, and he's really a leader in the whole downtown Topeka process. So as things are starting to finally mold together with downtown Topeka, and we see all that stuff coming together, and the street getting finished up, and the beautiful pocket parks coming together, when you start looking back, and I know we've talked about doing an article on this, you start looking back, you start seeing those people who really, held firm and said, this is important. And Neil was one of those people who said, downtown is important. We have to do this work.
Yeah, he played an integral role in the legislation, in getting the money, the dollars committed to infrastructure in Topeka, to downtown, to Wanamaker, to the Boulevard Bridge, all of those things. Neil was instrumental in getting those.
Yeah. Okay. So who else? Who else we got here? We got Dick Pratt.
Dick Pratt has to be the sweetest man on the face of the earth. Just want to wrap him up in a big bear hug and take him home. He is Mr. Downtown, is what I call him. He loves downtown Topeka with all of his heart, and has probably volunteered on every organization that has anything to do with bettering downtown. His civic responsibility, sitting on multiple boards, heading up multiple organizations, volunteering for everything. None of us have any excuses that we don't have time to do anything when we look at Dick Pratt.
Yeah, he has been out and about all the way. I mean, last year it seems like I saw him at chamber meetings. So, yeah, he is very involved. And there's a story in the magazine that Lisa gets about his relationship with Fog Allen, the founder of basketball. And it's really, really funny. So I hope you read it. And then, Lisa, the end of it is he actually did go and have, and it's not part of the magazine, but he did go and have and meet Fog Allen and spend some time with his wife, right?
Yes, he was. He would love to go watch basketball back when it was in its infancy, and there were very few people who would watch it. And so when they named the Allen Fieldhouse after Fog Allen, he wrote a letter congratulating Fog Allen on having the building named after him. And in a handwritten note at the bottom, Fog said, "Come visit Mrs. Allen and I sometime." Now, most of us would think that was something that was just being politely said. Dick took it literally, and he went back and he did visit with Fog and Mrs. Allen.
That's awesome. It also shows his age a little bit, but Dick's done a lot of really great things for Topeka. Okay, and then the last one, Eugene Williams. I think I have plans for Eugene to be on the show here in the next couple weeks with KTWU, and I actually was on his show. He has a show called Working Capital that airs on KTWU, and I was on the February show. I think it aired February 18th. And it was great to work with him. And Eugene's just been a powerhouse for Topeka. So what did you find out that was interesting about Eugene?
Well, I honestly didn't know much about Eugene, and I think he's kind of proud of that. He's a very quiet man, very reserved, very intelligent, reads a lot, absorbs as much knowledge as he possibly can. And so he's not putting himself out there, and so he's not really well recognized. But my conversation with Eugene was probably one of the most introspective type conversations that I've ever had. He's very thoughtful, very insightful, stops and thinks about the ramifications of things. And so it was a very interesting conversation. At the same time, he's witty and he's funny. And so what I really enjoyed was getting to listen to his story about being obviously from a very urban environment, growing up, going to school in Alabama, ended up working a lot of his career in Chicago. Very big city type of a person.
Total up and comer, and joins us in Topeka, and we're so glad.
And I asked him, I said, "So why Topeka? Just Chicago to Topeka? What's up with that?" And his answer was that there were times when it would take so long for him to get from downtown to Chicago to his home in the suburbs, that he can actually get there quicker from Topeka than he could when he lived there.
Yeah. That's a long time to be sitting in a vehicle just waiting to get home.
Yes.
I do love that about Topeka myself. I enjoy the parking. I enjoy being able to get from one place to the next. I think I do have to plan about 30 minutes sometimes to get from my side of town, southwest side of town, all the way over to downtown. But that is nothing compared to be sitting in a car moving inches for an entire day, basically. So, okay, so other stuff that's in the magazine, there's an article on architecture in the community. It's a beautiful article, and it's really a chance for us to talk with the local architecture firms and one of their principals within the firm about, what architect looks like in Topeka and what the workspace environments are going to look like in the future and what they're seeing in architect, and really also what inspired them to become architects. I don't know if I've ever used architect that many times in 1 minute, but it's a great story. And then also really, I love the pictures and the visuals, and you'll see the Capitol building and really even a reflection and a look back as you see security benefit in here. One of the architectural firms provided a picture of security benefit, and it is a beautiful building. And, once we put that in the magazine and showcased it, I went and I drove over by security benefit, and it's been years now since it's been built. But wow, what a building! What an architectural just showcase! And so it's something to look forward. You'll see Cyrus Hotel in there, and then also looking back all the way back to what has been created in the past. Another article that we were talking about before we got on the air was actually the pitch. So this is kind of a fun piece that we did this issue because Washburn has a pitch contest that they started thanks to the entrepreneurial and innovation department that's been created over at Washburn School of Business. And so in it, you'll find there's more than three, but there's three major projects. And this was first, second, and third at the last pitch contest. And these young entrepreneurs and really inventors too, they're pretty spectacular. But I think what I saw out of it was it has this feeling of like hope to it. What did you think of it?
Well, I was fascinated when I read through it because I hadn't really heard of the pitch before this article came through. And so I did a little research and was kind of looking into it. And to me, it's a fascinating process because how many of us have spent a lot of time, I won't kind of admit how much I spend, dreaming of, I should invent a product because, then I could
be rich.
Market it, I could be rich, I could quit work. And it's the what if, I could do this, but I can't think of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so to see these young people that really have these fascinating ideas and then how they actually are going to bring them to fruition is inspiring.
Yeah, it is. And one of them is the winner, which is interesting, is a durable and environmentally friendly dental floss holder. So that one, I mean, obviously that's great, but I love the second place winner. She's actually my favorite. Brista Robinson, she's a senior at Washburn University, and her product is the potato chip ice cream cone. And it was inspired by dipping French fries into the Wendy's Frosty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing that since I was a little kid. I never thought of this idea or even had a thought to it. And it's a great idea to have a salty, we have sugar cones. Why wouldn't we have a salty cone? That sounds wonderful.
That's exactly what my kids do. When we go someplace that has a soft serve, it's potato chips dipped in the ice cream. And so I've been watching this for 19 years.
Yeah. And here it is.
Somebody has an idea.
And the third place winners, they created a cigar box guitar. But once again, this is actually the adoption of something that's already been created. It's been utilized by musicians for years, but they took it and said, how can we make it unique? And then how can we make it marketable? And I love that. I love that. They actually have already sold one. And then they've also donated a few to some auctions, KTW's auction and some other places. But it's so exciting to see these guys and girls both. I mean, first place winner. Her product isn't been created. She doesn't have an actual product to show. Hers is an idea, and that's awesome too. They're going through that whole process of how do you bring it into creation, how do you develop it, and there's places like 712 Innovations where now you can go and you can actually test and try to create your idea and develop it without having to go and call a manufacturer and see if they'll develop it for thousands of dollars. You can go and try to do it yourself. So I think, we're really on the cusp of something great here in Topeka with what's going on at Washburn and what's going on with 712. And then even what's going on with like EMBD. We talked with Glenda Washington last week about the new small business incentives, which are there to help businesses who want training or want to build want to expand their business, or if they want to do construction, and then also one for if they want to buy more equipment. So, man, there's so many great things going on in Topeka. Okay, so we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, Lisa and I are actually going to talk about the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. So this book came out, was it at least a year ago? I mean, I bought it at least a year ago. And so I got asked to do a podcast over with the Topeka Shawnee County Public Library. And, of course, then I had to read. And so I chose Lean In as my book. And so I'm excited to kind of talk with you about my perceptions of it as well as Lisa's, because they're a little bit different. But we thought of the book. And then also I would love for you to watch the podcast. It's going to come out here in about 3 weeks, so it's a little ways away. But we'll have some more information on that in our social media network so that you can find out more about how to get involved with the podcast and check out what the library is doing with these podcasts on books. There's also a new program at the library called Read to Lead. And it's put on by the Washburn Leadership Institute. And it's this really great program where they've got David Callahan with Advisors Excel, Marion Krebel with United Way, just great people. Michelle Cole is doing one of the talks from over at Westar, and they're talking about books that they read and have inspired them to do greatness in the work that they do. And, really having that conversation about how powerful reading is for leadership within a company, and how the biggest, the best, and the brightest all read. And that's really a transformative piece of their leadership. So we'll talk more about that when we get back.
What is TIBA? TIBA is advice and support. TIBA is information and education. TIBA is a voice for small business.
My name is Tim Royer, and I work for Fidelity State Bank and Trust as a commercial officer. TIBA is an association of independent business owners. We're grassroots, and we're, again, looking to grow the community, looking to grow our business or the individual's business, and they're willing, again, to share. The people that are involved are willing to share their time and their talents and their experience.
The Topeka Independent Business Association is strong because of its members. Become a member today by visiting TopekaTIBA.org.
Welcome back to TK Business Live. I am with Lisa Loewen. She is joining me. She's the editor of TK Business Magazine, as well as a professor over at the University of Kansas. She is in the journalism department with the J School. And also my business partner with Focus Engineered, which is a strategic planning company and facilitating company and training company. We do lots of stuff, don't we, Lisa?
A little bit too much.
A little bit too much. So recently I was asked by the Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library to be a part of a podcast that they do where they read a book and then they kind of have a book discussion about that particular book. And so they said, well, we haven't really done a business topic, so would you be a part of this, and what book would you recommend? And so after thinking about, some of my favorite books like Atlas Shrugged and the E-Myth Revisited. I love those books. They didn't want a book that was like 1,000 pages long, so Atlas Shrugged was thrown out. And then the E-Myth, I didn't feel like that would connect with as many people. So there was this book on my desk that's been there since it first came out. I bought Lean In the week that it came out by Sheryl Sandberg. And I look at it and I get angry. So that was my reaction to it. It made me mad. So during the time, I had multiple businesses going on, multiple publications that we were putting out. And I felt like those words, lean in, to me just was like, if I lean in any further, I had not read the book. If I lean in any further, I'm going to fall down. I can't believe this woman is asking us to do more. And that was really my reaction to the book. I don't know why I bought it still, but I did. Maybe I just felt like it would energize my anger. But finally I said, okay, this is the perfect time with this podcast. I have a feeling this will be a hot button for me. It'll be a good topic discussion. So I said, let's do Lean In. So at the same time, I was telling Lisa about this. And so Lisa read this as well. and she says I forced her to, but I really didn't. She really wanted to read it so that she could argue with me about whether it was good or not. So I thought I'd share a little bit about it, but you can also check out the podcast. We just recently did, on Thursday, we did the podcast, and then I believe it'll air in about 3 weeks. So we'll talk about that on social media where you can find it, and I'll be sharing that. But I thought we'd talk a little bit about Lean In and have Lisa in here because Lisa and I have similar lives and completely different lives. Even though our lives intersect a lot, they're completely different. And so the premise of the book is really talking to women, not about, I didn't feel like it was talking about doing one more thing. It was more about the ambition gap. And basically what that means is that, you know, as women, as girls, we're very successful in school. We're doing great things in college. But then there's an ambition gap where at the same time that we are in a place to have children and get married and all these things that we do as women because we want to and we're excited to and we feel that need, it's also the time that is the opportunistic time when you are growing as a business person. And so oftentimes women miss that time, and therefore all their ambition, all those things that they wanted to be when they grew up, the astronaut, the scientist, it might actually miss, and then they give up. It was really kind of some of the things I got in that time period. Now, this made me really sad, I would have to say, was my reaction to that, because I agree. I have tons of ambition, but then you become into this place of guilt and question as you reach your 20s and you start 20s and 30s and you have kids and you're trying to decide, should I be at home with them? Should I be at work with them? And I found that ambition gap conversation very interesting because I feel like feminism, which I'm very much a feminist, I believe that women should have equal rights in all things. But I've struggled with it, trying to figure out, but what happens to if more and more women take more and more charge of things? How do the roles of the house work? How do you keep things in order? Who does everything? And how do you balance the workload? And I honestly think that part of this is a divorce reason why divorces are happening, because the balance is not correct, which is a tragedy of all this. But figuring out where the man is another piece of this for me that I've struggled with, and I actually kind of came to a conclusion as I worked through this. So, Lisa, what was your perception of the book?
Well, I read the book because you made me. And I kind of had the same perception going into it. I feel like that absolutely everything she said in the book is probably true. There is probably this gap, this time period where we shift our focus. I don't know that it's ambition lost. I think it's ambition put on the back burner. Mm-hmm. But having gone through that myself, I would not go back and change that. So I disagree a little bit with her premise, because I feel like my life would not be nearly as rich if I had pushed that ambition to the limit at the same point that I'm trying to have a family, raise my children, be a good wife, keep my marriage intact. I think it's a balancing act. And I don't believe that you have to give things up and that you have to sacrifice, but I do believe that you don't get to have everything all at the same time.
I think you're right on, and I think one of the interesting things is what there was a statement, and I mean it's been said many times, not just in the book, but it was find me a woman that's not guilty, and you found a man. And I had to giggle at that because I thought, yeah, that's probably what it is the most, is the level of guilt. I was talking to a good friend this today, and she just went back to work this week. It's her first week back at work after having a child, and she's very happy. She knows she's in the right place. She feels good about the decision she's making. She knows she has her children in great care, and she's very happy with that. But she has this guilt of, have I made the right decision? Is this what's best for my family? And I think it's the guilt that is the thing that would be really nice to replace with some other emotion, if we could, as women, of even if it's just the ability to say, I made the right choice, and to be proud of those choices rather than filled with guilt for those choices. And I feel like that's what she was trying to express, is that we need to change how we emotionally are feeling about this, which is really hard to do, but to be proud of the steps that we're taking, and to know that our children are watching those steps that we're taking, and to know that they're proud of us and they're not being harmed by the fact that someone great is caring for them. And it's not mom from 8 to 5.
I agree. I think as women, if we truly supported one another, mm-hmm. then we would not ever feel guilty about anything.
Right.
I firmly believe that if we would just quit judging each other, And the women that, think about it, some women that have full-time careers look down on the women who choose to stay home. And the women who choose to stay home look down on the women who have full-time careers. There should be none of that. If you choose to stay home with your kids, that is valid, that's important, that is essential. Be respected for it. If you choose to work and have someone else take care of your kids, that is valid, that is important, and you should be respected for it.
Oh, I think those points, and I that's what I felt like she was saying at the end too. I mean, she was really calling that out on women and men to say, validate every one of us. Like we're everything is a good choice. And this is where I come back to the man side of it that I was really struggling with. My big struggle was, okay, as women get more and more involved in the workforce, where does and I've spoken with multiple men about this, is where does their strength come from? What do they do? And all of a sudden I realized in this book for the first time that in their own unique way, men do not have equality, and they don't even realize it. They do not have the choices that we have as women and that we have fought for. And instead, they have the same issues that we have by if they have the choice that they want to be home and care for their children, or they want to take a different path. It is looked upon in a very negative way if they are not choosing the most financially successful path. It is considered, or just a successful path, it is considered poor or wrong or not supposed to be what they do. They don't have choice either. And I think that was one of my biggest revelations about the whole thing, was just sitting there going, wow, this is not just a female issue. It's not just a minority issue. This is be respected for the choices that you make and have choice and be able to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also think that part of what she was trying to say in the book was, if you're feeling guilty because what you really want to do is have a high-power career, then you need to stop and think about why you're feeling guilty about that. Mm-hmm. Because that's natural. We are talented, intelligent, powerful people, and we should not have to choose between putting that on the back burner or really going for it just because family and kids are in our lives.
Yeah. And that's where the lean in is. Lean in. What are you choosing to do? What do you want in your world? Lean into it and do it all and enjoy it. And don't be guilty about it. So, a fascinating book. I recommend it. I hope you read it, and read it before the podcast so that you can have your own opinion as you're watching the podcast. But I would love to hear what your perceptions are on the book. And again, going back to that read to lead. I keep switching those around. Consider that. What have you read lately? I would love to know. I'd love to know if you have a book recommendation for me. I've been reading, and my goal is to read at least 12 books this year. That is a massive goal for me, considering I maybe read one a year. But I'd love to hear what are some good books and good book recommendations. So find me on social media, tkmagazine.com. You can find me anywhere. Tara Dimick, I would love to hear what you have to say. Lisa, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's always fun.
It's always fun. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope you have a fabulous week. And be sure to go pick up TK Business Magazine.
Thanks for joining Tara and her guests on TK Business Live. Join us again next Sunday at 11:30 to hear more from our community business leaders, entrepreneurs, and people making a difference in the landscape of how business is progressively moving forward in Topeka. TK Business Live is brought to you by the members of the Topeka Independent Business Association.